3 lights, all individually switched one way. Easy, I hear you say. We'll stick around because we'll add a little bit more complication into the mix. So let's start with making a plan. This is going to be your 3-gang switch, like you'll see on a drawing. And then your light, you'll have 1 light, 2 light, and 3 light. With a live, you'll come in here, and then you loop the live over to this, and then you loop the live over to the third light, sorry. And from each light, we'll take a 2-core down to the switch. So how we're going to wire it, and this is how it's going to work. So simply put, we'll have our 3-gang switch there, we'll have our light batten holder there, we'll have our ceiling pendant there, and our ceiling pendant there. And each one will switch on and off by 1 switch for now. So these are going to be the materials that we're using. We're using some 1/5 clips, some 2/5 clips, some 3-core, some 1/5 twin and earth, some earth sleeving, some brown sleeving we've got there, and we've got 2 pendants and a batten holder, all with normal lamps, and obviously the 3-gang switch. So first things first, what we want to do is get the bottom of this out. So let's take this light to bits, where the cables or the terminations will go into the bottom. So these easily come to bit. We'll put the batten holder in the middle. There we go. So that batten holder is going to go there. This one, take it to bits. I've took these off already. So then put that there. That one will go there. So we'll have these 3. These are a little bit different look, so you can't mix up the batten holder with the ceiling pendant, because the batten holder has got the little terminals in there to fit that in. So yeah, you can't mix and match. So we're going to get them like that, and get this one in there. So then we're going to get some screws. Yeah, put some pigtails in there and fix these down. We'll fix them along that line, so we know. Right, so then let's just put this in here. I'm not going to do them mega tight because I want to get the cables underneath them. Obviously if it was in the ceiling it wouldn't have mattered, but for now we're just fixing them in position so we know where we're wiring them to. Basically making our plan. There we go, that one in there a little bit, that one in there. Ooh. As well, and then we'll get these so they look nice and symmetrical. I haven't measured them out, but we'll get the gist. And there we go, and there we go. And then also what they're going to come down to is a switch just here, which in there we've got 3 knockouts. So if we knock these out, we can do it. Yeah, let's do either end, top or bottom. We'll keep the earth terminal at the top. So we'll knock these out. And then just get these out as well. Nice and neat. There we go, look, there's your 3 terminals. These are quite brittle. And then we're going to fix this, so we want to knock out the holes in there as well as they come. So we'll knock the holes out of there. Make a mess. That's why electricians make a lot of mess. And then we'll fix this switch. This can go down nice and tight because we don't want it to move. So we'll put this down. A couple of screws in there. beautiful. And now what we want to do is wire it. And what we've got to start with is 2-core 1.5. So what we're going to do, we're going to have the 2-core coming in. Let's form it nice and neat. So then that will join onto, this will be your live coming in. So that will be a live coming in there into your switch, sorry, into your light. Let's get this nice and neat, like that. We'll put some clips in it, just to keep it in place, as we don't want it moving anywhere. Because once all the cables are in, we'll tighten it down, but we'll put a clip in it. There we go. Put a couple of clips in. That's how easy it is to form and bend it. Right. And then we want to go from there to there. So we're basically looping the live over to each fitting. And we just give it a nice bend, look. On there again. Feed this in once again, and then we'll put a few clips in it. It's just always nice to try and keep your clips the same. You could have put a double clip in that, but I'm doing it as though what you do in a property, like in the house. Right, so we want to go them to there as well. So we're going to come along here, form this in nice and neat. There we go. If you look, I should really remove that. It says remove on it as well. So let's get this out. It'll make it easier for our cables to come in. Look, it says remove on it. I've trashed it now, but there we go. So that one said remove on it. That was in the batten holder. The rest of them got decent sized holes. So we're going to form this in here as well. There, like so. And put some clips in it once again. Try to keep all the clips the same. I don't know why, it's just nice. It doesn't matter, obviously, what way the clips go up, but if you've got one that's out like that, it just looks silly. So it messes with your OCD. We'll put that in there, and then we just want this as the last carry on feed. This will be the end of the line, so it'll only have one in. So then we just form this nice and neat once again to go in there. There we go. And we'll put a clip in it. There we go. And that one as well. We want that one to go in here. Plenty of slack in them as well. I want to get this one up here. There we go. So now, let's get that nice and neat in there. And this clip as well. A couple of clips at the top, put the both in, and rather than going like this as well with your hand right at the end of the hammer, use it at use the handle. You get it in there, you get a better swing on it, and obviously more power. especially if you're hammering it into something like breeze block. It'll go straight in then. So we've got a live and neutral coming in, live and neutral going out to the next one, live and neutral, live and neutral, live and neutral. This is how it's wired conventionally in a property, and more than likely what you learn at college. So then, for the switch drops, so in a lot of houses, I'd say 90% of houses are wired like this. So all you want to do now is this is going to be a switch wire. So again, just use your 1.5 twin and earth to go to that one. So let's get that. And this one. And when you're wiring it in, you can see it now, it's fine. But in a house, you can't see where the cables are going. So for your live, give it just 2 nicks in there. And your switch, you can give it 1. So basically, you know, or you can write on them. You can do so many different things, really. But just give them a little nick to identify what is what. So if you remember, there's 1 nick is your switch wire, 2 nicks is your live and neutral in. It doesn't matter at the switch because they're all going to be switch wires. And I suppose you could label on them as well, saying light 1. If we get a pen, we can call that L1, L2, L3. So we can call this down here as well, L1. So that's going to be light 1 basically. And get this in here. A few more clips. Keeping it nice and neat and flat. If you keep it nice and flat, especially wherever you're clipping it, because then they won't wreck it when they plaster or something like that, because it might stick out. There we go. And then this one will be L2 or light 2. So we'll know this will be straight up the middle. So again, when you run it in, be a bit difficult. There we go. Get it in there. Again, you want to give it 1 nick, and if you give all these 2, then you know that these are your lives in. Just clip them at the end. Don't clip them somewhere down there because you might need to use that for terminating. So these are all your live and neutrals in, and that one with 1 nick is your switch wire. So once again, clip it on there. And then the last one, we want a switch wire down into here. So then let's get another bit of 1.5 twin and earth. Get that in there. So you can imagine this being in the ceiling, your 3 wires will come out a lot easier. But there we go, 1 nick. Look at that, it's got a nick on it already. Just get rid of that, otherwise you get confused. But that's got a nick on it, so that's 1 nick. And then what we'll do on here, L2. And then this into here. Try and form it the same so it all looks nice and neat, nice and flat once again. And a couple of clips to hold her in place. There we go. So then that is in effect wired. So that's your first fix. L3. Depends how rubbish your writing is, whether you can tell. But that, in effect, is your first fix. What you'll do straight away. Obviously, let's do these up a little bit so I hold them in place now. There we go. So we've got all the wires in, your live and neutrals and your switch wires. Right, so now let's terminate the light fittings. What I'm going to use are these side cutters. So what I'm going to do first is the switch wire, because I will show you so we don't get confused, because you know which one's your switch wire because it's got one nick on it. So the earth, you can get rid of that, pull out the middle. So that's got enough on there, but you're going to need a bit of this, basically to identify that neutral, or that, sorry, that blue as your switch wire. So if we put that on now, then we know that one will be your switch wire. So that's always one that I'll do first, and then you can carry on and do the rest. So this is your live and neutral in. Flipping thing has got caught in there. Right, I need to do that again because them nicks. Right, so pull that down, just terminate it enough back so it's inside the light. There we go. This is your live and neutral. Get this, terminate it back, just enough sheath so it's inside the neutral. So wherever the cable goes outside of this fitting, then it's protected, double protected basically, with the insulation and the sheath of the cable. Now to terminate it into the light, what I would do first is get all your earths out the way and figure out where they're going to go. Right, so this will be your live, will go into the middle, so trying to keep them as neat as possible, nice and swoop them in. So there we go, and your neutrals will come over here, and then your switch live will go straight into there. Oh sorry, for the live into the switch will go straight into there, and then that will go into the lives for the light. So then let's cut these off. So these are all got one terminals for this. So what we're going to do is get these there, in there. You can see why in every house you work in there's always little bits of, well, sheath basically, because how hard is it to keep hold of it? You don't, it just falls on the floor or falls anywhere. You do try and clear up a little bit, but it's quite difficult sometimes. Right, so now to get a little bit of a better connection as well, double the ends over. I want to keep this nice and neat. Try and get it over as much as I can to get in there. So that is nice. A bit short, I suppose, but it's difficult to get it hard. Difficult to get it nice and neat inside of a ceiling rose sometimes, but this just makes it a better connection when you terminate it, bending it over. You think they've got double the surface area in there. So there we go. And then this one, there we go. And get a decent terminal that's going to fit onto these nicely, so you can do them up very easily. Right, so you want to form this one onto here, because this one is your neutral block. All these blocks are separate. You can get them the Wago ones, which I've seen are very nice, but there we go, that one. So that one will form nice and neat into there. and then this neutral. So this is your neutral carrying on. This is also going to be neutral to the light. So you get this in here once again. So then push them down because you've got to get your ceiling rows on as well. So I'm going to try and get the nice form in, nice and neat. Right, there we go. So that's nice and neat in there. And then this, obviously your 3 lives. So you got your live in, your live out, and your switch live. Doesn't really matter what terminal they go into, to be honest. Like, if as long as you're in the 3 blocks, and obviously not, you can't put any terminals in there, but it doesn't matter what order these ones go into, as long as they're all together, because these 3 blocks are for the live, these 3 here are for the neutral, and these 2 is just for the switch live into the light. And then this one into here as well, nice and tight, not too tight, don't round it off, you get sort of get a feeling of how tight they need to be. And then this one is your switch live, so that will send the live down to the switch, and then you'll switch it and it'll make the light come on. So then let's get that in there nice. There we go. And now all you got is your earths. So then you get your bit of earth sleeve in. Try and keep them all the same length would be nice. And we just want 1, 2 and 3. So we're going to get these, push them on as much as you can, because you're going to try not to see any of the copper. See if it goes down there. Oh, I'll get it on there. There we go. It's on there now. And they're just going to go into this terminal block here. Into this one. So we'll get it swooped nice and neat round. Now don't really double these over, because there's 3 cables going into here. So when you double them over, you're basically taking up more space. You haven't got enough, in effect, space in some of them. This probably would have, to be honest, and you could get away with it, but I haven't on this one. So that's up, so you get this nice and neat in there, and then these ones is nice and neat in there, and then that one in there. So they come straight through of the terminal. To be honest with you, it ain't the prettiest, but we'll test it out later on, make sure it all goes in there lovely. But there you go, they're all in. So there we go, that is your switched live in and your live and neutral all in. That's the ceiling rows terminated, second fixed, ready to go. So then we'll move on to the second one and do exactly the same. If we terminate the switch live first, here we go. There we go. Because we know then which one is a switch live. Because if you terminate them all and then you're in the ceiling, you think, which one's a switch live? You've got to bell them out. So do that one first, so you know which is your switch live. And then these ones are your live and neutral in and out, which you will know. Oh, sugar. Try to get this as much as possible. I've done it before. Just make sure you don't get the cores done it before, you chopped them off and you've got to find a bit of slack from somewhere. It's a bleeding nightmare. Right, so in this, again, get them nice and in there. The more you do it, the easier it gets. So again, I'll get the earths out the way because they will be last. Let's get these out the way. There we go. Earths out of the way. And then these, bend them over because you want them to go into there. So then we'll chop them off. And terminate these once again. There we go. I might try to do these a little bit longer. Makes it a little bit easier for me. And you can see that there's only one blue. This is what people make the mistake all the time. I've seen it recently on a bleeding post somewhere. People took the light down and they haven't got a clue. Oh, I didn't, because this one is not always marked. Your switch wire's not always marked. It might have fell off when someone's changed the light or anything. So if you're ever changing a light, just make sure you always identify that switch live. Because if you get them mixed up, then, well, you've got to test it all out anyway. It's a nightmare, especially if it's high up, like a chandelier light or something. There we go. So there we go. They should hang about. They want to be a bit tighter than that because they might not go in. Hang about. Don't want to twist it because it'll just snap. But these are a bit rounded, so you want to be a bit more neat. There we go. Right. So then we want your neutrals at this end. Once again, so we'll terminate that in there. Your two neutrals. Loosen them off. You get your neutral to go in there. So when you double it over, it is a bit of a tricky one sometimes, but they will go in. Bit of persuasion, there we go, see? We get that in there, that's your neutral. And then obviously your neutral from the carry on. See, bit of persuasion, once again, needed. Probably haven't got that terminal off enough. There we go, it's in. So then these are formed nice and neat for the neutrals. Let's get that down there, nice and neat. Right, and then your live. Obviously this is your live in. No, this is your live out, or sorry, this is your live looping onto the other light fittings. I should have doubled them over a little bit better because they're a little bit tight to go in. Look, that loop should have been a bit tighter. There we go. That should go in there now beautifully. There we go. And then we'll get the switch live in. Look, if you've got a, you don't want a gap in the middle of it. Really, it'd be nicer if it just goes in. It makes it easier, especially if you want a ladder in a house. It's just a bit difficult, so you want to make your life as easy as possible and get them cores basically touching in the middle. There we go. And then this is your other live. Look, again, them cores are not touching in the middle. If you squish them down so they get nice, they're not snapped off, just enough so they're nice and tight together, and basically you can fill that terminal up with copper, because the better connection you get, the better readings you get on insulation resistance. So there we go. And then you switch live into the last one. And again, that's got a little bit of a loop on it, so tighten it down, which these are spot on for, I think, for doing that. We'll get this on there. There we go. So then let's get that in there nice and neat. And now, once again, just going to do the earths, which will go 1, 2, 3. Put these on once again. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. And get these nice and neat. Once again, swoop them round and in. That's a bit long, that one, but it'll be nice. It's in there. Push that in there because you want to make sure, we'll test it to make sure we get continuity of the earths as well. But then you can always see it come through the other end. Look, in there, if it comes through the other end a little bit, you're spot on, you're through enough, and it gets it a nice tight fitting. Again, you don't want to do it FT, you just want to do it tight enough. Right, so the last one. So that's them two, basically second fixed, ready to go. But I've not put the ceiling pendants on just yet because I'm going to test it. So this one, once again, I know there's only 2 cables in here, but if you get the habit of doing the switch wire first, then it'll make your life easier when there's more than one cable in there. Because on this one you've got your live and neutral in, because this one you might see it labelled as EOL, end of line. Basically this is your end of line where the live and neutral comes in, doesn't go anywhere else. So that's your switch live once again. And now chop this off because it's been a nightmare with the little nicks. So leave plenty on. There we go. Get that in there. Right. So there we go. We want to get the earths out of the way once again. And just bend them over. And you'll get a certain amount what you want to go into the terminals. Right. So then this one once again. Do any of your customers moan and say, oh, there's little bits of cable everywhere? Because they do just ping all over the place. You can't help it. When you're terminating, you would like to catch them. It would be good if you could, but yeah, you can't really. They just fall all over the place. Mine do anyway. There's always little bits. Try to tidy up as best as you can. At the end of the day, electricians are renowned for making a mess. I'm sure other trades are messy. Imagine plasterers, that'd be a bleeding nightmare. You have to cover everything up when you're plastering. It does get everywhere. Right, so there we go. So with this one, once again, look, it's coming in a bit funny, but we can make it nice. All we've got in this one is one neutral, because obviously this is your end of line. You've got to turn that cable around a bit to get in there. There we go. That is in there. And then this one will go into the middle again. The middle is always where the live is. Just remember that. That'll be a good thing to remember when you're in your ceiling rows. The middle connections are always live. They're always live. You carry on. If they're not, someone's wired it wrong. But then this one as well wants to be alive. So the permanent live, basically, that's your line in effect. It'll go through back to the board. Right, so let's get this. There, it's a little bit more difficult doing it this way up than I'm used to doing it above my head. So then this one is obviously your switch live, which is marked with the brown sleeving. So there we go. Let's get this nice and neat in there. Always use the screwdriver to get it in there nice. Right, and then once again we've got your earths, which you want to identify them with a bit of sleeving. There we go. Get that in there nice. That one, and that one. And this will go into here. Pop it through that end if you see it come out of there. Nice. And then this one will go into here. There we go. And then tighten them down. Obviously not massively tight again, but that is it. Your 3 lights, second fixed. So then now we've got the switch wires. So we've got them labelled on this, so it shouldn't be too bad. But sometimes you want to make sure you know, like say in the switch, if you've got 1, 2, 3. So there's 1 dot on there, 2 dots on there, 3 dots on there. So you know that's 1, 2, 3 lights. And then strip these cables back. It's going to be tight in here, so make sure you get a decent amount, but just enough to come through onto the box. You just don't want to see any of this cable. You don't see any blue or brown outside of the box. If it's out of here, then yeah, it's crap. You got to do it again. So then do this, get the earth out again. And another thing to be careful of, make sure you've got a good grip on that earth when you're pulling it back, especially on these Paxilin boxes, because if you slip and snap that off, then you've got to take it all to bits and replace the box. This happens often as well, especially when you're in a rush and you're doing about, I don't know, 60, 70 of them in a day. If you're in industrial, when you're doing it surface mounted and stuff. Right, so that is it. And all these blues in here is your switch wires. So you want to have on the blue, because it's not a neutral, someone might be mistaken, you want to have a bit of sleeving on there to identify them, as they will be live, because they're the ones that send in the live back up to the light. So we'll get rid of these. We'll start off with terminating the earth, because that being the back of the box, because it's a plastic switch, we won't have a fly lead enough to go onto anywhere on this, so we won't need a fly lead on there basically. But we want to make it, you want to use the length, because if it ever happens that you come back and you've got to do anything or change anything, it's nice to have as much length as you can, because you've got the whole box. So let's, not too long obviously, but then it's 2, 3, and if it's you that come back as well and there's a fault maybe in, I don't know, 10 years time, don't twist them all together. That makes it a nightmare for testing if there is a fault or to isolate anything. So for the cost of a little bit of sleeving, separate them all. It's nice and neat. Again, I keep saying neat. but it just makes it nicer. And again, on this terminal, as you can see on here, in here, there is not a lot of space, so I'm not going to double these over once again. You could put them in a Wago, but again you won't double them over in a Wago. But for now I'm going to use the terminal in the box because it's there, because I can, basically. So it's the furthest one. We'll swoop nice and neatly into that, and again the middle one, make sure that sleeving's on nice and neat. Look at that, that come off a bit. Nice and neatly into there, and again you can see it on this brass fitting. It goes straight through, and you've got a nice, well, you can have a nice connection. So all three of them have gone straight through on that terminal. And do them up. So that is your earth gone through beautifully. And with these, use your space once again. You've got plenty of cable on there. Use it, because you don't know, I don't know, later on you might want to use it for something else somewhere along the line. But so don't just chop them off nice and neat, because it's hard to get your switch on there. So chop them off with a decent amount, because then you can take it out for testing it as well. And then again, with these terminations, we're going to double them over, because there's only one going in. I'll show you that in a bit, actually, why you should leave plenty on them. So let's terminate all these. Into here once again. And then double them over to get that little bit of a better connection. And because we're only going to one terminal, if I did have more than one cable going into a terminal, I wouldn't double them over, because again it would be stupidly tight, and sometimes it's too tight and it'll pop out, or you'll never get them out properly. So there we go, let's get this. There we go. Perfect. Right. Well, what we're going to do is that switch, and that switch. Make sure they all go in the same one. So we're going to use the common. We'll go into one. Undo them. So it makes it easier when we're doing it. Let's just undo all the screws a little bit so we can get the cables in there. But you don't want to undo L2. We're not going to need L2. Not at the minute. So we just undo L1 as well. There we go. So then switch 1, which will be this one. Put the common into the top of the switch, which will say common. And then the switch wire into L2. There we go. And then the second switch, once again, we'll put the common into the top, and then the switch wire into L1 once again. Did I say L2 earlier? I meant L1. And then your common once again for the third light. If you didn't have a common from the light, you could just use the common from the same one, because they're all on the same circuit. But the way we've wired it, we've got a common down here for each light. So that as you can see in there, is nice and neat. The
commons all go in the top, and the switch lives are all in the bottom. And then to get them into the box, just bend them in nice and form them in, sort of thing, so they go nice and neat inside that box. But let's make sure that we've got continuity. Right, and what I'm going to do with this, just to make sure everything's tight and I've got no sort of faults, I'm quite confident, but it's just get my little voltmeter, the bell them out. But make sure when you test this, you don't go, oh. Sometimes if you've got moisture in your hands, you get a reading through that. So you can be doing that, or you could be testing this and you'll still get a reading. But obviously I'm a bit dry at the minute. So then, this is your live and neutral coming in. Just put that on there and make sure we've got a live all the way to there, which is spot on. So obviously you should get continuity of your live in the switch as well, which you have, spot on. And then we can also check that you've got your neutral all the way to the end of line, which you have. You'll do your insulation resistance tests on that, and then make sure the continuity of the earth. So obviously this is your live and neutral earth coming in. Have you got an earth there? Yes, you have. Have you got an earth in your switch? Yes, you have. But you'll test it on the continuity on your tester. So then now I'm confident enough to second fix it. So then what we want to do is put your switch where it forms nice and neat into there. So you've got plenty of slack on them. And then get your screws. Start them off with your fingers, because you'll know they'll go in nice then, he says. Yep, I've started nicely on that one. And then that one, perfect. Oh, it's gone a bit tight. But you'll go through and it'll get it on. Sometimes they're a little bit tight, but sometimes it makes you think that you cross-threaded it, but I haven't, just because it's new. And with the pendants, you want to get your your neutral, put it in the neutral block, and then your live, which will go in with the switch live. This is the only one that will go in there with your switch live. And it depends whether they've got chandelier or anything on there, so form these nice and neat onto there like that. So if anything does hang, like a lampshade or anything, it takes the weight on this cable just a little bit, and then you can put this back over and do her up, because this is where the lampshade comes on if you put it on there. But we're not going to put a lampshade on because it's not even hanging. So then we can put a bulb in, or lamp should I say. Bulbs are what you put in the garden. So then we want the batten holder, and then on this one you want to go into the neutral block, which is this end, and then your live, which is this end, your switch live. I haven't undone it. Get it in there. There we go. And this one you're going to try and squeeze it in. Because it's a batten holder, it's a little bit different. There we go. And sit this over there. Finish this off. And put your lamp in once again. And then the third one is exactly the same as the first, like we did. We're going to put the live in here and the neutral in with these. So that's your live and neutral in there, and the end will be your switch wire. What you see in a lot of houses as well, where they don't hook them around these, is you see them through like that. That is a mess. It winds me up when you see that, when you can just simply tidy them up by hooking them round inside the fitting properly. There we go. So then when someone comes along and puts a lampshade on it, it doesn't pull the cable through, so you can actually see the cores. Once again, put the lamp. So now, then we're ready to turn it on. So all these switches, basically, like this position, this is off. In any house, this should be off if it's a one-way switch. So then we've got 1 on, 2 on, 3 on. Perfect. And they all work individually, so you haven't got any wires crossed, which you found that out. So there you go. That's 3 lights off a 3-gang switch. But then, what if this one and this one wanted to be 2-wayed? But then this one also wanted to be an intermediate. Let's see how we're going to do that. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps you in your electrical journey as becoming an electrician, or maybe you even being an electrician. Don't forget to give it the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below of any videos that you think might help you in your journey to become an electrician. And now we're going to knock on to the next part of this video, which you can watch just here. So click just here, take you over to the next video where there's an intermediate and 2-way switching. I'll see you there.